Order. At the time, I'd ask you to rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I believe the mayor has a letter that he'd asked Lynn to read, so if you'd do that, please.
So yes, in the absence of the mayor, he'd like me to read this. Last week was a very trying week. Was a very trying week for many in the city of Stanley. If anyone had any doubts about our police department, the doubts should be gone. I've never been more proud of Stanley. Sorry, I got a tickle in my throat. I've never been more proud of Stanley, and I'm sure many others feel the same way. Response by the different sheriff's departments, the city of Tioga, Newtown, Minot, Williston, State Highway Patrol, MHA, BCI, and I'm sure there'll be some I have missed, but these different police forces were all amazing. Our firemen and ambulance personnel also played key roles in the search. Our city employees were all involved, and we're all busy doing the search, as well as making sure all the different groups had what they needed, and they were also amazing. Last but certainly not least, the citizens from Stanley, surrounding areas from young to old, were all doing their part in the searching, some driving, others on foot, searching every nook and cranny. I've never heard anyone complain. I've never heard one complaint from anyone. The focus on the issue was amazing, and the coordination and the camaraderie was like something you'd see in a movie. I wish there was more we could do than say a huge thank you to all. As I said, I have never been more proud to call Stanley my home, and all of these different people, my friends and neighbors. What's even better is this young boy was found and was okay. We couldn't have had a better ending. Thank you again to everyone. Marley Ranum.
Thanks, Lynn. Give everybody just a quick minute to go through the minutes, and once you are, I'd entertain a motion to approve. Thanks, Lynn. Give everybody just a quick minute to go through the minutes. Once you are, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
The motion to approve the minutes, is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor signify by aye. Opposed?
Aye.
The minutes, is there a second? Motion carried. Second. All those in favor signify by aye. I believe Linda is on Holland, so there's a little bit of a time lapse for that, so. I believe Linda is on Holland. There's a little bit of a. With that, we'll call on Todd Hybrider, Planning and Zoning.
Good evening.
We'll call on.
Thank you just for a second. If anybody's online, could you mute your phones? We're getting some carryover from the online speakers, please.
Good evening. We had our meeting last Monday night, a week ago. First up on our agenda was a conditional use permit from H2O Connections, Jarrett Wirtz. This is on the Nelson Hubbard property, which is on the Little Knife Reservoir south of town. And this was a application to put a commercial water pump on the Nelson Hubbard property. He had all the correct paperwork from the State Water Commission, and everything was in order. So a motion and a vote in favor of his conditional use permit was done. The expiration date on this pump coincides with his water permit from the State Water Commission, which will actually end on December 31st of 23. And if he wants to redo it, he'll have to reapply for a new permit.
Any questions?
You will have to do a motion on this one.
So need a motion to approve that recommendation.
So moved.
The motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Lynn, call the roll on them, please.
Lauren,
Aye.
Ty,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
Good. All, hearing all ayes, motion carried.
Next up, we had a variance permit from the Ace Hardware Store, the new one that's moving out onto the highway. The current regulation states they can have 2 signs. They wanted to add more to their building, so they came with a variance for up to 8 4x8 signs to be installed on the building. They want to put 6 on the front and a couple on the sides at a later date. With that, looking at the pictures and everything, a motion was made and a vote to approve their variance.
I'll move to approve that variance.
Second. A motion and a second to approve the variance. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Lynn, please call the roll again.
Lauren,
Aye.
Zach,
Aye.
Ty,
Aye.
Linda. Linda,
Aye.
Hearing all ayes, the motion carried.
Next up, we had a public hearing for a conditional use permit for another industrial water pump. This one was from Stratton Oakmont LLC, Josh Nichols. And this was to place a pump on the little slough on the south edge of town on the north side of the highway. Again, he had the proper paperwork and everything from the State Water Commission. So with that, the motion was made and approved to grant him a conditional use for the placement of a water pump.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the recommendation. Any further discussion? Lynn?
Lauren,
Aye.
Zach,
Aye.
Ty,
Aye.
Linda.
Aye.
Hearing all ayes, the motion is approved.
That is all I have unless you have any questions of me.
Looks like none. Thanks, Todd.
Yep, thank you.
Amanda?
Good evening, council members. As you can see, we do have quite the list still for building permits coming in. The big one is the new home that came in on 3rd Street. You guys approved that variance last month for the age limit. And then, of course, I approved for the Family Dollar. That's going in just west of the dog park. The others are just some nice additions to houses, porches, fences, etc. The demo permit has to do with Mr. Nichols being able to move the house from one area of town onto the new lot. And then that special event mobile food permit was for Mex Mix during the 4th of July. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Lynn?
Lauren,
Aye.
Zach,
Aye.
Ty,
Aye.
Linda.
Aye.
Do you want me to include George even though?
No, you can omit him on that, being didn't sit through it all, so it's fine. Hearing all ayes, motion to approve the report.
Thank you.
Next line of business on the agenda is the city lot and the Pursuit Church. Believe you have in front of you 3 versions. Is that yeah, 3, that's what I remembered. Ryan, would you want to?
Yes. So at the last meeting, council member Little Creek came up with the idea to give the purchase price plus the fair assessed value of each improvement that doesn't include playground equipment. And so we had taken that and drafted the document up when I got back at Deal, and we ran it past the other attorneys, Deb and Megan, and we thought that if we did the purchase price, we thought that you couldn't break it down into specific improvements minus the playground equipment. And so we made a change, and so the version number 1 basically says the seller, which is the city, the right to purchase at the fair assessed value. So it didn't do the 7,900 plus the fair assessed value of the other improvements. And we thought that would be the best. So I did call individually and explain the situation. And so they thought, yeah, that makes sense. We don't want to pay, if we did the fair assessed value plus the purchase price, we thought that you would end up paying more than that. So it'd be 7,900 plus the fair assessed value of the total price. Because we again didn't think you could limit or add specific items to increase or whatever. And then when I talked to Councilmember Little Creek on the phone, he did say that, no, we did agree on the purchase price plus each improvement that is made aside from the playground equipment. What? Yes, yeah, permanent. So then I called Ms. Dizelle, the city assessor, and she said that you can actually assess or determine the value of each individual improvement. So what we did is then created a couple more options for the purchase agreement to kind of reflect what we think you guys wanted when you voted on it. And so version 1 is the part where it's just a fair assessed value and you don't add the playground equipment. And then the second version is the seller shall have the right to purchase property at the purchase price plus the fair assessed value of each improvement made by the buyer. And we had to put it as buyer or improvement because that's how they word it in the assessors. That's what Ms. Dizelle told us. It had to be called improvement. That's how they were able to do it. And then the exclusion is improvements do not include playground equipment, trees, and or shrubs that have been added to the real property by the buyer on or behalf of the buyer. So I added, so that we changed it to improvements because that's what Mrs. Dizelle said. That's how they assess things. Is they want to, we have to call it improvements. So, and then the third option, and I think that second version is the one you guys want. The next one is the shall have the right to purchase the property at the fair assessed value, including fixtures of the real property. The minimum value the seller will pay to purchase will be the purchase price, pursuit paid mentioned above, or the fair assessed value, whichever is the highest. That one doesn't narrow it down into the improvements that they make with the minus of the playground equipment and the trees and shrubs. So I think version 2 is the one that you guys voted on. I just wanted to give 3 options so you guys know so you guys understand what you voted on, so.
Is there any questions for Ryan, clarification on anything? I think what he's saying with 2, when I visited with him, that's exactly, I guess, the line that I thought George was looking to go down. So I think that is what we were looking for that night. Now, the question is the pursuit still on board with that? Are you good with that?
Yeah. The second one, when you were bringing that up, that sounded like the last time I was here, the one that everyone was looking at. Yeah, and we're on board if that's
Okay.
the one. Yep.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve this sale. So there's a motion, there's a second. George? Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Lynn, please call the roll.
Lauren,
Aye.
Zach,
Aye.
Ty,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
George.
Hearing all ayes, the motion carries to sell the lot. And using version 2, I guess that should have probably been stated.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you for your patience. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
The next line item that we have is the Lagoon Road. If you remember at the last month, Jay Sandstrom was here questioning ownership, questioning who has the responsibility of maintenance. Lynn, do you want to talk to what this little packet is?
Okay, between Brianna and I, we did a lot of research. I spoke to Ward Heidbreder. I talked to Wade Inget since he was the attorney, obviously, for 30 plus years. I did have a discussion with Deb. Oh, I did talk to Yana at Montreal County Road and Bridge. I mean, I have not been able to locate anything that shows actual ownership of this road. You'll do see, we did find some pictures, like the first one that says 1938 on it. Well, obviously back then we didn't have a lagoon cell there, so there wasn't really a road, but you can see the property located there, and there is a road there. And then obviously in the picture of 1958, you can see the road that as it currently exists. I did have a brief discussion with Jay. I told him that I have not been able to locate anything. I do know that back in June of 2007, we did sell a parcel of land to SRT Communications, and we did, on the plat, we did have to include an access easement on the plat, obviously, because otherwise the land, would have been landlocked. But other than that, I have not been able to locate anything that says otherwise. And Yana with the county says that, yeah, they've never maintained that road. They've never had nothing to do with it. And so I guess I wanted to bring it to the council's attention and I guess see where we need to go from there. So I don't know if it's the same case where, oh, you do see I did also include some century codes, which I kind of discussed with Deb, like that you could do public roads by prescription, and that would be that, any road, public road, highway that has been open and used such during 20 successive years, or it could be considered as a section line, which is, considered public road open for public travel. And the other one would be public road may be established to give access to the highway, because that would have been the only other access that would have brought them out to the truck route or the county road there.
Okay, so I mean, in my opinion, I think the next logical step is to find the section corners, and there's got to be a plat on it, being as we sold that. These corners that,
It's unplatted. I checked into that as well. Because I'm guessing
Can you speak to
initially,
this? How can you get section corners placed on the south half and not the north, or the south line and not the north?
That's a good question. I'm looking at the GIS, just trying to figure out where the. I don't know how it could have been divided up like that without a plat, but
And in 2007, when we sold that parcel out of there, they would have had to have something to,
everything else would have had to been platted and this just be the remainder, but that's kind of unlikely considering how much is out there, but I don't know. I mean, I think between a legal survey and a title certificate, that would be the answer, but there's professionals that deal in both things, so
right.
it might be to that point, but
I think in my opinion, being we do own property there and there's not a plat on it, I think it would be wise on our part to find out what do we own? And then that's gonna tell where that road lies, if that lies on our side or if that lies on their side, or if it runs right, splits this section down the middle to where it's a 50-50 type deal. But meets and bounds is a thing of the past, and I think it's just time to pay the piper and get it surveyed and be done with it.
finding a surveyor that wants the job might be difficult.
Right.
Some of these aren't easy. They go through a lot of years of records.
Isn't that what we have roads for?
Yeah, they'll do it, but not under.
So I guess, I mean, let's make a decision on this tonight. What are we gonna do?
That can give us the most surety if we start the process, get it surveyed. I mean, what else can we do really?
It fixes it. It tells us exactly where our boundaries are out there and what our responsibilities. I get it. We're not asking for it. Sandstroms are. They want to know about the road, but we also need to be able to use that road. So I'm guessing Tuffy and her crew doesn't want to row a boat across the lagoon every time they need to get to the top cell. So I'd entertain a motion to hire a survey and get this started and be done.
I'll make that motion.
Motion to survey the lagoon property. Was there a second?
I'll second.
The motion is second. Is there any further discussion?
We want, how many surveyors are there still that do this stuff? You know, shop around, or is there? Like Zach said, I mean, is there guarantees somebody will do it?
I'm only aware of the one that I've used, and I believe he's retired.
Rose does have a lot of corners found already in this area, so that helps the process. But
To me, that's just the easiest route. Let's get it done and be done with it. Is that included in your motion to talk to Bros then, or?
Absolutely.
Okay, George, you still good with your second on that? All right, any other discussion? Hear none? Oh,
Are we gonna have to do maintenance on it anyway so that we can access it?
yep,
So the main issue is that they just want to know who's responsible for it, or
yeah, I
want to know
think
how much we can, if it's replaced, how much goes in,
Right.
what's the purpose?
kind of what I get from it is they're not really happy with the amount of maintenances that is done, and I think they probably own it, and they want, being we're using it, they would like us to do some more maintenance on it, is kind of what I took, and I could be completely wrong from the last meeting, but at the end of the day, we're the ones that have maintained it for years. it's probably not an every other month blading job on it because it only does serve the one home. But it's never been impassable either. So, Lynn,
So I do know that I think they're looking at selling the property. And I think sometimes that can create an issue because not knowing if they own the road or if we own the road, that could be an issue. So like I said, it might be the case that if we do actually own it or it's on our property, whatever is determined, that we still might have to like grant them an access easement, I think as part of for their sale of the property.
and that could easily be, I know Century Code says if that road's been in existence for 20 years, it's considered a legal and binding road, and you have to approach the county commission in order to close it. And if it's allowing ingress and egress to a residence or to a farmer or to a rancher or to an oil company, it cannot be closed. So
then why pay to have it surveyed? It sounds like we're just finding their corner pins for them to sell their property. If we have to do so much maintenance and we can use code to say, no, we still need access to this road and it's to one house, why pay to have it surveyed if we still have to maintain it irregardless?
you are probably more right than wrong, but still at the end of the day,
Nobody knows. So,
you don't know who owns it, and I would just as soon know who owns it.
I mean,
And
from what I read,
not
it's-
have
yeah,
this.
from what I read, I mean, without that surety of access, that stops them being able to even build. So
I think especially if there's financing involved, the bank isn't gonna finance a piece of property that doesn't have, that might be landlocked.
Right.
Landlocked, so they don't know that.
And, and then, I mean, I don't disagree with you. The onus should be on them to prove up on that if they're the ones wanting to sell it. I totally agree with
Right,
that.
it's not like we wouldn't give, I mean, I get that it could be landlocked, but it's not like they can come to us and ask for an easement and have that solved without an issue, and then we're not paying. I'm just curious to know how much surveying is, because I know how much it was to find my pins, and it wasn't free. And it's not free for a lot of people, and if you're saying that nobody even wants the job, like, how much are we talking here? Are we talking tens of thousands? Are we talking maybe 2,000? Like, what are we paying to find that we're gonna still be doing the same exact thing that we've been doing? Where they need to sell, they could hire a surveyor, and if it is landlocked, just say, hey, can we get something in writing to where I can have access to this so I can sell my property? So it sounds like we're doing them
I think we're doing them a little bit of a favor, but I do remember in the last, if we look back in the minutes, I do believe that he agreed to, depending on how the findings went, that there would be a sharing of costs too. I mean, I did directly ask him that also, so.
but I think if the survey comes back and shows they own it, then that presents an issue for us.
I think it would still present an issue for the other one, because it's right here in the Century Code that it's been a road for this many years, so it's a road irregardless. So I mean, it's not like they could close it even if they do own it, so we would still have to maintain it to give access to our workers for it.
We could look it up and see, maybe we could just do each of you, the city doesn't grants an easement to them and they do one vice versa to cover both sides. That might be enough without having to do
Would that settle the whole issue without a survey?
I would have to look, we'll have to research it, but
Because if we could, if that's simple,
because then it would be filed with the recorder's office, and then if any wants to provide financing, they would do a title opinion, they would see that easements are there, but vice versa. One would cancel one out if it turns out the other one owned it, but it would still be available. I mean,
And then we're not spending money on a surveyor. I mean, because code says that it's ours, and I feel like if it is their property, they want to know if it's their property to say, hey, it's mine. Then they should be paying for the survey. We shouldn't be using everybody's taxpayer dollars to find it for them while they want to sell. That's just my 2 cents on it. If we have Century Code on our side that protects us to have access.
Have to create the exhibit to do that though. You still have to survey it. I'm not saying who should pay for it, I'm just, because you gotta show where's the easement at.
yeah, that's true, yeah.
I mean, ultimately, if you look in the packet at the easement that we gave to that land that's in there, that clearly runs in ours, that's exactly how that easement on that section line would have to be drawn up, measured off of known points. So I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think that we can get away from a survey.
I probably shouldn't have said that maybe the surveyor doesn't want it. I just know that if there's not clear, if the corners aren't there or the records are complicated, all that just adds to the effort of figuring it out. But
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, Lynn.
Lauren,
Pass for a minute. 'Cause am I allowed to? I don't know, I'm kind of torn on this one.
well, we're doing roll call, so I
Yay or
guess
nay?
I'm gonna go nay.
Zach,
abstain.
Ty,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
George.
Aye.
One abstain, one nay, 3 yeas, the motion passes. The next thing we got is visitors committee. Is there anybody here for them? Seeing none, it's in your packet for the Montreal County Medical Center Golf Tourney. And you can see that the recommendation from the visitors committee is to pay 50% of the requested amount. And that is the amount of, or the recommendation is $5,015.
I'll move to accept the visitors promotion fund recommendation for $5,015.
A motion to accept the recommendation at $5,015. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Lynn, please call the roll.
Lauren,
Aye.
Zach,
Aye.
Ty,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
George.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next item on the agenda is a request for council approval from the Stanley Commercial Club to close First Avenue, which would be over by the old post office in front of the furniture store, for a Crazy Days event on August 3rd, and also a second request of the city to install a 50 amp service on the power pole at the corner of the alley by the bank. The street closure, I guess I don't have a problem with that. Installing a service for a one time a year at 50 amp on a there's some expense to that. And food trucks, in my mind, food trucks and bouncy houses, they can bring their little generator that they use everywhere else they go and power their equipment that way. That's my opinion. That's my side of the discussion. Is there any further discussion on this?
I'm just curious when we've been doing it before, without this service.
I know that last year at Crazy Days, they had about 3 of the 5 food trucks or whatever that were supposed to be there that couldn't operate because they didn't have enough service. And then the Bouncy Castle people, they had 2 of their bigger units that the generator won't power without having a big rolling generator. But so that's all I remember from last year, I guess. But
I mean, I don't disagree that a 50 amp plug would be there. It's just who's ultimate.
do we have any idea what that would cost to put in?
Well, it's a meter, a loop and a meter, because I think there's secondaries on that pole, but I'm not sure. I'd have to go look. Nobody's shaking their head like they know either, so. But it'd be another monthly charge for the meter. And I don't know how they do their temporary use, if they would pull the meter and put a blank on it, like over by Mary's office where we run off of. There used to be a breaker in there to turn Christmas lights on. And they take the meter in and out. I don't know if there's a fee I mean, if it's $100 a year to have the service there, then I'm fine with it, I guess. But if it's a $30 minimum per month, all year long, every year, I guess I just don't see that that's the taxpayer's responsibility. That's my 2 cents. And with that said, I do believe that there's that same service on the other side of the street, main street, by the eye doctor and the Pursuit Church.
There's not.
There used to be one there
There's not, because they had to pull power from inside the leader for the
for
band.
the music this year. So I guess that's not an
I think
option.
somebody wanted to say something.
I was just gonna say, I run an RV, but I used to have it.
You have to have an electrician come and do it. I mean, MDU doesn't add the service. They just put the meter socket up, and then we'd have to contract an electrician to come and put the receptacles underneath of it. And 50 amp, I mean, that's a really ultimately 1,000 square foot home is what that used to power them, was a 60 amp service. So it's a fair amount of power for.
I do know that most of the stuff that the commercial club was doing down in the park, they had to increase that twice because it wasn't big enough.
So, and, I'm sure the park board covered that down there.
Yeah, I don't know who took the bill on that one, but I'm sure.
I mean, the guy can check into it, I guess, but if you want to split this up, I'm fine with that and approve the street closure and at least do our due diligence and see what it would cost to have the service brought in by MDU and also a local electrician to put the box or the
I'll make that motion.
breaker panel.
Is it about a month out? Well, a little less than a month, I think. So I mean,
Oh, yeah.
worst case, portable generators. Right?
Yeah. So there's a motion to approve the street closure.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
So motion and a second on the street closure. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. Lynn, would you want to just take that second part and make a phone call to MDU?
Okay, so I did just, Tuffy called and spoke to Justin with MDU. It didn't sound like it would be an issue for them to install it, but I guess there wasn't discussion of cost, like if we could do it as a temporary. So I guess that's probably where I would actually, because he informed Tuffy that we'd actually have to call, the corporate office, put in the request to have it done. And then I guess then I can check in and find cost and see if we can do it as a temporary, so it isn't like a monthly fee.
Right, and then you will also have to contact an electrician to see what they charge to put a set of breakers and like the lady said, like an RV type service underneath of it, where you'd have a 20 amp single pole breaker and a 30 amp double pole breaker, I'm guessing. That's what a 50 amp service would look like. Okay, next item on the agenda is the Stanley Park District pay request.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve the Park District's pay request. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Lynn, would you please call the roll?
Lauren,
Aye.
Zach.
Aye.
Ty.
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
George.
Aye.
Hearing all ayes, the motion carried. Next item on the agenda is the Sidewalk Chalk Easy Breezy Artworks. I'll just read verbatim what she says. Hello, Ada. It was nice to visit with you. Hello, members of the city council. I own Easy Breezy Artworks in Stanley. I'm wondering if I would be allowed to put some sort of box or tote with sidewalk chalk out under the pergola for kids to be creative and parents to enjoy a sit while their child plays. I would like to have some sort of signage on the box that mentions it was donated by my business as well. If there are any questions with this idea, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Thank you for your time and consideration. Bree Ware.
So she talked to me this afternoon when I dropped my daughter off at one of her art classes about this. And I guess my first concern was, what happens when you get a high school kid that writes something they shouldn't on the ground outside with a bunch of sidewalk chalk, but she's walking by it every day anyway. So she can look for that, and sidewalk chalk comes off with water. So pergola isn't a solid roof. It's going to wash off every time it rains or snows. I guess I thought it was a pretty cool idea.
I think the concept is fine. My only concern would be that concern with the chalk being on the brick buildings up and down Main Street. Mary has plenty of carvings on the side of her wall already.
That's cool.
Yeah, yours is actually pretty neat, so.
No,
Wishes of the council.
I think we should let her do it. I mean, we'll find out pretty quickly if it's a fail or not. I mean, I have little faith in our youth after today, but I think that it's not fair to deprive everybody else because of a couple of hoodlums around town. So I would make a motion to approve.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
The motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by aye.
Yep,
Oh,
yep. I'd like to say something.
go ahead.
Well, I would like to see it pulled in every evening, the chalk, so we don't have the temptation from the children who like to vandalize. So that would be my only stipulation to this.
We can definitely ask her if that would be plausible. The chief is walking up, so I'm guessing he's got some words of wisdom to add.
I kind of feeling what you guys are saying here. I agree with it. I think we should just do it and we address the individual problems when they occur. I have no problem doing that.
Okay.
I don't want to punish everybody for a couple of kids that may cause problems. We'll address that.
Okay. You good with trying that, or Linda?
Yep.
All right. There's motion and second on the table. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Right.
Motion carried. Rose Engineering Report.
Good evening, council members. Your report is in your packet. Country Estates Water is the one that is probably the most, that we need the most help with this evening. We have a change order that was run through process because we had a couple of hydrants that were going to be very difficult to install. The materials have already been ordered for that. And so what we did is we asked for a credit for the labor to install those hydrants and for delivery of the hydrants and the appurtenances to Public Works so that you have them on hand and we can install them if we have an emergency repair to do at some point in time. In doing so, that is a change order for a reduction in the project cost, $17,659.28. And we were asking for a motion on that, if you want that now, or we can finish the report, whatever you prefer.
So to be clear, the two hydrants would not be installed due to the wet.
They were not being installed because of wet and a lot of utilities where they had been intended to be located. It's going to be difficult to get them in.
So it essentially reduces the price of the project by that 17.5.
Yes, yep.
Okay. Yeah, we
Mr.
might as well.
President, can I
Yep.
also ask a question? So originally on your report here, you talk about the utility easement documents. Do we still need to approve that as well?
That's a separate
Okay,
location.
okay.
Yep.
Sorry, I just know there was that discussion on it, so I just wanted to make sure that was
Yeah, I
still,
was gonna knock them out one at a time. Thank you
okay,
for that.
sorry.
You're
Appreciate
fine,
that.
Lynn. So I'd entertain a motion to
So
either
moved.
approve or disapprove the change order.
So moved, approved, and change order.
So motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
Second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Lynn, please call the roll.
Lauren,
Aye.
Zach,
Aye.
Ty,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
George.
Aye.
The second one in that area is the easement for the hydrant location at the Wayrut. Wayrut? Wyrock. I would have got it in 1,000 tries. Apologize for that. Wyrock property. We needed to create that so where the hydrant sits is actually on public property. That document was in your packet, and so we would like to get approval to get that easement processed and recorded.
Makes sense to me. So it's essentially they were planned to be on the south side, right? And it has been moved to the north side so that it will be out of the snow, out of the trees.
Correct.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
So motion to approve the utility easement change. Is there a second?
Second.
The motion and second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Lynn, please call the roll.
Lauren,
Aye.
Zach,
Aye.
Ty,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
George.
Aye.
Final item on
Motion
country.
carried.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
Final item on Country Estates Water. The contractor opened up a service pit and in basically the wettest location of the project and decided to frankly make it a little bigger deal than it needed to be and extrapolate that problem across 11 locations. We pushed back on that and said that that's not going to be the case at this point in time. And so as we've discussed back and forth, the change order document that was added to your packet this evening, change order number 2 is where we've landed at this point in time. Initially, it had a total amount on the bottom that was a fairly substantial number. At this point, it's down to an increase in planned quantities on backfill, an increase in planned quantities on fabric. So we already have bid prices established for those. And then we have labor hours for a laborer, a pickup, a pump, and a hydrovac. If we run into those problems at any of those other locations, we don't know exactly what the number will be at this point in time. But we weren't going to promise them the world over a wet hole.
Yeah, no, they have plenty of boreholes out there
That
that they should be able to see what the water problem looks like. And then I did go out there and take a peek at this when I heard about it, and the hole that they opened up in front of the Dave Neschheim property, they've dewatered it several times with no intentions of working in it at that time that they dewatered it. And to me, that is, why would you pump the
wasteful.
water out if you're not going to crawl in the hole and make the repairs? So I don't think that we should have to pay for the 5 times that they hydrovac just to hydrovac it. That's
Agreed.
ridiculous.
Agreed.
So right now, this pay or this change order is the one that we approved.
This this is down to a reasonable amount for us to have something to work with. And it's not a change order that we're processing at this point in time. It's just making the council aware
Okay.
that, and we are in total agreement with what you just said. Maintenance pumping on that hole when they're not doing anything is, they can do that if they want, but what we're going to count is the hours when they pump it down, then they make the connection and they get to work on backfilling.
Okay.
That's the only hours the city should see.
Okay, all right, and I wholeheartedly agree with that.
I think it would be good, Ken, correct me if I'm wrong, but for the ones that we don't have a bid, a unit cost for in the contract to approve these unit costs? Do you think we need that?
For the labor and, yeah,
For the labor, the crew pickup,
Yes,
pump and the
yes, yes.
hydrovac, we don't have anything in the contract for those prices,
agreed.
to approve those prices. It'd be good if we could agree,
So-
we're willing to pay that price per hour. We're not agreeing on any number of hours at this time. We're just,
That would be terrific. If you agree with those prices, we can do it that way so that we know we are not going to have to negotiate those prices and hours in the field.
What is,
It's about $4.95 an hour total,
what's the hydro? I don't see it, so help me here.
right here.
Oh,
so there shouldn't be a pump and a hydrovac at the same time.
No, it's gonna be
probably
one
should
or the
just-
other.
One or the other, and probably just the pump.
with the preference of the pump being the first option.
Agreed. Yeah, we
Yeah,
don't need to-
those numbers look, those are good numbers. That's what it is out there right now, so.
Motion to approve the contract pricing.
Okay, there's a motion to approve that hourly rate for the stated equipment. Is there a second?
Second.
The motion and second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Lynn, please call the roll.
Lauren. Zach.
Aye.
Ty.
Aye.
Linda.
Aye.
George.
Hearing all ayes, the motion carried.
Yeah, final thing that they have on there is a 35-day contract extension. Well, this hole has been open, so I just want to make you aware that they are looking for extra time as they mobilized out, went somewhere else, and will be back. So it would be an extension at the end of the project.
What is the end of the project right now? What's it set for?
You know, I don't recall right offhand.
And they moved out because of us or because of another job that they had overbooked?
Yes.
So I don't really see that that's our problem, that they overbooked and now they pick up stakes and they leave, and now we've got people out there that already have well issues. And they're asking for another 35 days to extend their work because they took another job and made money in that 30 days in between.
I know during the discussions that their boring crew had somewhere else to go. And so initially they were going to be here and stay for the duration. As soon as this problem arose, they went somewhere else. Supposedly they were going to be back. At the end of 1 week, and then it was the beginning of the next week, and now they've pushed us out to where this 35 days. Are they going to hold to this? I don't know. Or are they just giving themselves room? But it is a frustration, for sure.
How long was their boring crew gone? 2 weeks that they knew? I believe it was 14 days that they were told.
I think maybe there was a week in there they would have worked and didn't. But that's my opinion.
Yeah, so
They have plenty of time to get it done too.
Yeah, I don't want to give them an
Yeah,
extension now so they can stay out longer.
My
Maybe
opinion
as we
is
get
that we
closer to
deny
the
the
end.
35 days and force them to get to work.
I agree.
So we can go back to them with the suggestion that we accept the prices. We do not accept the time extension.
So amicable.
Or you can pick a lesser
Or
number
you
of
can
the
pick a
time
lesser
extension.
number. If you want to give them that 7 days,
No.
that's whatever, but I don't feel that it's our problem that they took other work and went elsewhere. There's plenty of stuff like Zach saying, they could have been doing things.
Yes, they could have been putting in fittings where they've got the borings complete. They could have, there are any number of things that could have been done.
The position they took is that every hole is gonna be that bad.
Right.
Right. And
Nobody ever.
we haven't agreed with them on that.
No, so. Okay, I don't think, need a motion to deny the 35 days.
So moved.
It's a motion to deny. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion a second. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, Lynn, please call the roll.
Lauren,
Aye.
Zach,
Aye.
Ty,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
George.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, Stanley CIP Phase 1, Wagner has completed their punch list items, and Zach and Paul are working on scheduling a walkthrough with Wagner. I don't know of the exact date for that.
Okay,
How much do we have on retention for the end of their project?
Should be 10%,
I think we gave
or
them
has
a
it been
portion of it
reduced?
though, didn't we? Aren't we down to like 3 or something, or 7? We let them take 3 and we kept 7?
yeah, there was
I don't remember.
a little,
They haven't been paid for anything they've done this year though. So none of the seating or anything is gonna be paid.
The seeding is my concern, and it's been a concern of a lot of the people because they sprayed weeds into everybody's yard, in the front of everybody's yard.
But
That's all that took.
I can kind of speak to that. So what they sprayed in there was, it is not weeds. That is like a 99% weed-free seed mix that they use. The vendor that they buy it from cannot even sell it if there's weeds in it. The weed seeds were in the ground, and they will always germinate sooner than a grass seed because the hull on a weed seed is much softer than the hull on a grass seed. And the other problem with it is there isn't any seed that's going to work if you don't have the moisture. Well, the end of May, it quit raining. We've had 45 hundredths of rain in the whole month of June. And now and then now another 40 hundredths in July. So unless that property owner was watering that grass, you go look at the ones that have sprinklers or the ones that have been watering the hydro seed, they have grass. And the grass is already choking out the weeds. The ones that have done no work to help that hydro seed grow, that's what you get. I'm sorry. I mean, I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but what we seeded it is not weeds. It's a certified seed. It's 99% weed free.
And it looks rough.
It does, but that's the dirt. All those seeds are in there from.
And really the only saving grace that we have in those rough areas is the seed is still there.
Right.
And because it hasn't germinated yet, if we get fall rains, then we may see germination. And eventually grass will reestablish, but it takes time.
There's nobody gonna like to hear it, but that's the facts. We did not get bad seed. We just got bad moisture. And the people that chose not to help it out and water it, it is what it is. Mary?
All you have to do is look at the difference between my boulevard and my neighbors. We watered it lately.
Yeah.
There is a difference.
So,
Of course, I don't shoot.
so Zach, you'll let us know when that walkthrough is in case some of us want to tag along.
I guess what Paul was thinking today, he hasn't got a date from Wagner yet, but if Chad and Tuffy, that'll be the two, you both want to go along on that, or?
Yep.
Not for me to decide, but just.
I've followed it from the beginning, so I'm fine with going again. And all the corrections that we've asked for up till this point, I've noticed have all been made. The aprons have been fixed in the alley. The curb stops have been brought to surface. All the little things, so. Okay.
Phase 2, we did the walk through a few weeks ago and looked at how we could optimize the dollars we're spending on the project, to make sure that as we put in curb ramps, that they're going to a sidewalk that should have a curb ramp to it. We had a few of them that we looked at that said it doesn't really make any sense because they'd be curb ramps to nowhere. And we learned from phase one, some of those areas where homeowners had put in new sidewalks, that what was done in the field last time, where we did not remove brand new panels, we took that to heart and made sure that our replacement plan is now matching. If we've got good sidewalk there, we're going to stop at the good sidewalk, make the ramps work, and make them as absolutely close to ADA as they possibly can be at the day of construction. And we all recognize frost will move them over winter, and so they may be, if we're right at the thresholds of the design slopes when we build it, it may or may not still be within that tolerance at, if somebody were to come back in a year. But the chances of somebody coming in and causing an issue there are a risk that's just has to be weighed. We've got 3 to 6 weeks left on plan set development, and we'll have the plans ready to put out for bid. So it's steady as she goes, and it's coming together pretty well, I think. So. And finally, North Dakota 8 shared use path. Light fixtures are all installed and working, and we're on the closeout process now. And that one will be wrapped up. Any questions for me?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the demo for a dangerous building. Amanda's probably got some.
You guys did get a copy in your packet. We did put it in the newspaper the last Wednesday in June and the first Wednesday in July. We only received one bid, and that one is the one that is before you. It's from SM Services, and it is for the $19,000. That is to remove, dispose, cap, water, sewer per city specs, top soil and seed, and then that asbestos inspection by material testing services. If you will note, there is a statement in there that says any abatement costs for the asbestos, if found, are not included in that $19,000. So that would be something that would be additional.
Is that a hard and fast number? Because it seems awfully high to me.
From what I'm assuming, yes.
Did we contact anybody, or did we just strictly go by
I did.
ad in the paper?
We did ad in the paper, and I contacted numerous people who will remain nameless because I don't want to drag them right now. And this was the one bid that we received. I don't know if we bid it again, if we will get anything different, if I'm being honest.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
This gets assessed to the property owner, correct?
Yes. The city pays it initially, and then the property owner, I don't know if it gets assessed straight to the taxes or if the property owner gets an invoice. I don't know how that is, Lynn.
And then I'm guessing what happens is that they go bad on their taxes and they say, Merry Christmas, here's your lot.
And then the county would take it, right? And I
the
do-
city
Yeah,
pays
but
the
they own
$20,000
another house.
bill.
Yes, ma'am, they do. They own another house in town.
They own another house in Stanley, so
Yeah, but you can't assess it against that property if it's in good standing. You can only assess this against the property that you did the work on.
Right. And
correct,
we,
but it's on a loan.
What?
As far as I understand, it is a loan.
They didn't ask for it.
Can we give this a 1 month soak and just bid it again or keep it back out, or where are we tied to accept whatever came in now?
We're
Could
not
we do it this
obligated.
year? If we were to accept this bid, would it be done this year?
Yes, ma'am. He would like to wait until closer to fall.
Okay.
That way they can take it out and then make sure that the ground is not too soft when they go in initially and start packing and all of that good stuff. Forgive me, I'm not super fluent on everything that he was discussing. So if some of it doesn't make quite sense, it's probably because I'm butchering what he said. But my intentions are good, so.
Yeah, no, I think what you're saying is exactly right. It's to tear it out, clean out the hole, and cap the water in the sewer,
Yes, sir.
and then bring it back to surface with compaction so that it's all right,
Right,
and dress the top of the ground and seed it,
correct.
and haul away the material with the exception of the asbestos, if there's any of that abatement, that will also be required to be paid for by the city.
And I don't think there should be any. There may be some, but the house was remodeled a number of years ago. So I'm assuming that if any of that existed, it probably has already been remodeled, but they are still going to do testing according to our standards. And I called multiple contractors that I use on a very regular basis, that I deal with on a regular basis, and this is the only bid that I got. So I don't know if we rebid it, if we would get anything different.
Would you be opposed to making one more phone call?
Two?
Chamley Pipe and Service,
I
they're the ones that did the Ether property.
Okay,
They removed that and cleaned all that up. And I do know that I have a bid for them on a farmyard property that my son owns, and that is essentially the same exact thing with the exception of asbestos. There's guaranteed not any of that there. And this is 3 times the cost that I got for my bid.
if that's what the council wishes,
I mean,
I'll do what's
that's where
asked.
I'm at. I mean, since this is already a week removed from our original council date, we can have a decision in 3 weeks from today, basically. So if we're not planning on doing this till fall, or we've got the time, I think it's worth trying to save some money if we can. So I don't know if we need a motion on that, but I'd like to give it till next council meeting or rebid it.
I guess I think we need a motion because Amanda's went through the work to do this. It's just
Thank you.
one out there that we're aware of that she wasn't, and I think
Right.
it's worth the phone call.
I can do that. It was a little bit frustrating, if I'm being quite honest, because I am calling people that I deal with on a regular basis, and I can't make them give me bids.
Right.
I can't make them do something they don't want to do. It is good fall work for people because right now they are overbooked. Everybody's overbooked. It's what they do.
And I'm guessing all this material will end up in our landfill.
No,
Is going to mine it.
he's going elsewhere. He is not going to our landfill. I did let them know that if they did, it would be a matter of, you're gonna have to separate everything out. And to do that, they would make no money on the project.
I think what I'll do is I'll move to table this till the next meeting
And collect an additional bid.
and just see if any other bids come in. Yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's a motion, a second. Is there
Okay,
any further-
exactly
Yep.
what is the
Ooh, yep.
motion?
The motion is to table.
So I
this
guess my
line
question,
item.
sorry, my question is, do we need to rebid this? Would
No.
that be the best process, Ryan? Just because it's a dangerous building process and we bid it once, only got one, and if the council isn't in favor of accepting this bid, should we rebid it again, just to make sure we're following the process?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so rebid and have ready for next council. Am I clear on the wishes?
Yeah, I guess I can amend my motion. Yeah, let's, I'll move to just rebid this, to be picked up again next council meeting.
Okay, there's a motion, an amended motion Lauren, you had a second. Was that still good?
Yes.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll in.
Lauren,
Aye.
Zach,
Aye.
Ty,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
George.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Next agenda item is the NDDOT progress bill, the shared use path. I believe this is the final payment of $897.58. Is that correct, Lynn?
I don't believe this is the final, because obviously he just mentioned that they'd be doing the closeout. So I'm guessing there might be one small bill that might follow this. I'm guessing, Zach, would I be correct in saying that?
Yes, I do, so it's probably not.
Because this is on the shared use path.
Yep. Okay, entertain a motion to approve this payment.
So moved.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Lynn, please call the roll.
Lauren,
Aye.
Zach,
Aye.
Ty,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
George.
Aye.
Motion carried. The next item on the agenda is a Hess Division Order Agreement for some mineral acres. Do you have any insight on this one, Lynn? Because our lawyers looked at it to see if it's a decent.
I asked a question.
Yeah. Did you have any insight on this division order from Hess? Does it line up with everything that we've done in the past?
As far as I could tell, yes.
You have this? Do you see where it even lists how many mineral acres or portion of an acre that we?
Yeah.
Like 0.0013. That's our interest. That's what, that's how I read it. Unit interest, tract interest.
In layman's terms here for us or anything?
What's that?
Can you break it down at all? I mean, is this the typical, or are we missing something?
It's generally what they look like. I mean, it's pretty much carbon copy. They print these off every time they establish a new drill spacing, whether it's a 2-section drill spacing or a 3-section or a single section, and they just do the math and they pay essentially whatever these say, that they are what they are. 12 years ago, there was room for negotiations, and now with the way everything is, it's pretty much, and for really, it doesn't look like any more acreage that we have on there.
So if you take the unit interest times the gross acres, is that how many acres or years, or is that not how that works?
Well, the 2,560, that's the spacing, that's the drill spacing, if you will. And so I don't see, I guess what I don't see is what they're proposing for.
I think it's in that first sentence, says how many acres it is while covering 2,500.
Yeah, that's the well though. That's the drill spacing for the well. So there's gonna be several mineral owners probably within those 2 sections or 3 sections, whatever it is that they're proposing. We could only be so grateful to have 2,560 mineral acres. We wouldn't have to worry about anything.
So what do we need, a motion?
It's the motion to approve signing the,
A motion to
Division order.
approve, if it's the same as the others.
so motion to approve the division order. Is there a second?
Second.
The second, is there any further discussion? Questions, concerns? Hearing none, Lynn, please call the roll.
Lauren,
Aye.
Zach,
Aye.
Ty.
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
George.
All right.
Motion carried. Next item on the agenda is the tax deed properties in the John Ryan edition. The deeds are in front of you and the explanation of the property itself in the mapping in the back. There's a few questions on that tax lien property and the memorandum that go with it. And I believe that all of them shall and should remain the city's possession, according to what this, for us to do as we wish, correct?
I thought we already did that. didn't we?
I think this is just an FYI, right?
Which one are you looking at?
Well, the deeds, I mean,
Okay.
those are self-explanatory.
Well, no, because this was on the agenda last month. I got told to move it to this month's agenda so that you guys could kind of discuss and think about this. Obviously, we need to decide what we're going to do with these properties because there have been people inquiring if we are going to sell any of them, especially the ones that are just vacant lots.
Right.
And then obviously we have the lots that have the apartments on them.
Has there been inquiries about those ones?
Yes, when we're gonna turn it down.
Nobody offering to purchase them?
No, a lot of people have offered to drive equipment through them, but no purchases yet.
Thanks for that update.
Sorry about that.
Well, and where that came from was we were wondering, are we required to put them out for bid or can we sell them one at a time like we have the Pursuit lot or like we did the empty lot by Ingy over there where we sold just that one lot off. And I think that was where we needed to kind of land and figure out how do we want to go about this? Are we required to sell them via bid process
Which we would.
because of the potential value of the property?
Yeah, if they were less than 2,000, we could sell them as a private sale.
So then the other question, if I remember right, is what is expected of us on accepting the bid? Because of our concerns, we put this out for bid and let's say Greenstone is the top bidder on that for $1,000. Do we have to accept that bid or can we sell it to Ty for his $10 bid?
Ryan, you might need to speak on that. I guess I'm kind of briefly trying to go through Deb's email here that is also included. It'd be the second page. So she talks about what the city would be able to do.
I thought that was the question from last.
That was the original question, was how do we
How do we
continue
protect
to
against
protect
that?
ourselves from Greenstone being able to buy these back for literally pennies on the dollar because of a bid process? And I don't think that we want to take that chance without knowing exactly where we're at. Did you have something, Mary?
Don't you have the right to reject any and all bids based on the best interest of the city? And in the case of Greenstone, they've already trusted.
Well, that was my question last month, was, is that acceptable legally? Because we don't want to end up in a bind by playing not fair, right? So that was my question.
But granted, I mean, at the county commissioners meeting that I attended for that one, they did make it sound like we do have the right to refuse Greenstone, whereas they wouldn't if it went into that process. So I'm assuming that they were referring to as if we had it out on auction that we could say no to them, whereas they would not be allowed to do that. That's at least.
But that was coming from the county commission's best guess at legal advice, and
If you go to the North Dakota Century Code 4011, 40.2, part of it says that the city can reserve the right to reject any and all offers determined to be insufficient. So you can reject it.
but can we sell it to the next bidder below him if he's $1,000? Let's say George bid $1 on it and Greenstone put $10,000 for their bid. Can we reject them and sell it to George for $1?
I have to look and see what they mean by insufficient. Oh, go ahead. Huh?
I mean, I think we need to have advice on, to have that ability so that we're protected on the front end of it, because we really don't want them to get this back.
Well, I think we just need to be very clear cut on what our expectations are too, to make sure that when that process goes through, are we selling all of them together? Are we selling them individually? Are we bid processing the whole thing as a group? Are we?
I guess the properties that have the buildings, there's probably nobody, with the exception of a couple contractors, that do that kind of thing. If there even is one of them that wants to try resurrect it. But I agree, there's cut and dried line of demarcation that you reach this day and it's not done. It needs to be tore down at your cost and cleaned up.
The other thing I keep getting reminded in the public, just like Amanda said, drive a truck through it, but is that at one point we did vote to tear it down. And people remember that at the moment, so.
Well, and I mean, to support this council, it took 8 years to get to where we're at. And I don't want to try to solve this problem in 2 months from when we got the deed without knowing exactly where we can be. Yeah, it's our problem. I get it. We inherited it. But it's been here for a long time that it didn't get taken care of prior to us. So they can't expect us to work a miracle in 2 months.
No, and I'm not expecting that either. I just wanted to
No, I agree with
share
you.
the conversation in the public.
Yeah.
I agree that we got to get good advice on how to do this in the bid process. With that one building, that lot is of a negative value until that building is torn down. I don't know why anybody would bid on it. And that, to me, is what most people have the issue with, is how bad that one property looks. So I don't know why we couldn't go ahead with getting bids to demolish at least that one.
So is it truly a negative value though? Because there's an assessed value to it.
It's a negative value because I wouldn't take it unless you gave me money for it. So in the real world, to me, it's a negative value.
Right, but in the eyes of the assessor, is it truly a negative value in century code, if you will?
I don't know what it matters if nobody would bid on it.
Aren't we paying to have a fence stay around it at the moment?
Mm-hmm.
So it's continual cost on top of that.
But I mean,
And the cost of the police department having to
And the cost of the police department having to continually deal with people out there on a regular basis, including cutting our lock and having to replace it, tearing down the fence on one side, on the north side, us having to fix that. It has been ongoing.
I'm not saying we need to have any kind of resolution to that today. I just wanted to be specific and aware that that's still a real question out there as to what we're gonna do.
I agree, George. I've heard that quite a bit too, so you're not the only one hearing it.
Well, can you bring us back a exact bid recommendation and what our parameters are? Like, we have to know where we can be and what we can do prior to putting it out for bid.
But I think that it's fair to say that all those lots shouldn't be sold together. Like as one, I think it's fair for us to break them up, because that's what you had said, right?
Well, there's vacant lots, but I'm guessing because even though you have separate lots where the apartments are, you still have those buildings across those. So those ones, I'm guessing we're gonna have to do probably together.
The little outlier ones. we
The,
can do
the other ones, I'm guessing we could do individually.
I have no qualms about selling them one at a time to whoever wants to buy them.
Do we have to, what are they assessed at? Because it sounds like if they're above 25, then we need to.
Well, I'm pretty sure I know I can say they're above 2,500.
Right.
So,
And
Okay.
it's really pretty simple. I mean, you just put them out there then in the bid process, and if there's two people that want to put a bid in on it, we can
Okay.
accept whichever one we want is what.
do you want us to do the bid process for the vacant lots, or do you want
Well,
me to have
let's-
Brianna get like the assessed values together? And
Yeah, let's do
I
that
think we
first.
should have
So
the
do we
assessed
wanna do this-
value, and I want to see the corner that we need to stay out of on the bid process, because you could have that same concept happen with an empty lot. They
okay,
could come back and buy 6 empty lots for $20 a piece.
okay, so do we want to have this, do you feel you'll have this ready for the August meeting, or should we wait till the September meeting?
We'll have it by August.
Okay,
I mean, that's just my opinion. Council, where are you at?
No, I agree with that. I mean, if we don't do this executed properly, the last 8 years could have been for nothing. If we trip on ourselves. So,
When we do sell it too, we're able to hold the provisions of the dangerous building. So that means that a person would have to agree to that, either demolish or fix.
Right. I do not think that we want to let that go, that dangerous building. We have the room to negotiate with them with dates, just like we did in good faith with Greenstone.
Correct.
We can do that if there is that new buyer, we can still afford that with end dates, hard and fast, and
Right. It would almost have to be like we did before with Greenstone, which would be like a conditional building permit, where that building permit, yes, you're allowed to have one, but there are definitely rules and timelines that need to be followed. And if not, then there should obviously be some type of consequence because of that, because we're not selling it to then turn into the same Greenstone 2.0 problem by a new buyer.
okay. So if you'll bring that back for us, that'd be great. Then we will have a direction. Next line item is John Ryan Addition Streets. Another lovely inheritance. Lynn put together all the specials that have been paid, who's paid them. Not really sure what the North Dakota Income Fund is. Who is that?
they're another developer that, yeah, they own a number of properties.
So how I read this, there's a $221,000 of outstanding to be collected yet, specials for water and sewer. Is that accurate? And then an additional $180,000 worth of specials for the street.
I guess just to, sorry.
No,
Obviously that is based off of our certification, like what's remaining after we certify it each year to the county. So if there's outstanding though, that's not reflected on this
Oh.
spreadsheet.
okay, all right.
So if there's
there-
outstanding that's already been certified to the county, that's not included on this spreadsheet. This is just based off of our records from what we certify every year. What's showing should be remaining.
So that number actually could be,
Could be more.
okay. I don't really know that there's an issue with the water and the sewer. I mean, there's the one-offs that we've had with curb stops, breaking from frost heave and what have you. Or being put in the wrong spot in the driveway. The street, I think, is probably where our heartburn is. We have to figure out a plan to remedy some of, you know, the bad streets up there. Because there are some that are still serviceable to where they don't all have to be tore out and brought down to whatever and then compacted back up. I mean, it's not like redo the whole subdivision of streets. And we almost need to know which ones and what's a close guess. I mean, what can we start there? I'm looking at Zach because he works with this stuff and understands. I get it that we go shoot it. We go through all the engineering part of it. But is there a way just to go measure footage and just give a rough number of this is kind of what you're going to be looking at, no promises type number?
You know, if we look back to kind of how we did the process for the phase one, phase two, kind of step one was condition assessment. We kind of agreeing, is this a full replacement? Is this an overlay? Is this a, you know, probably need to kind of agree on that first before we start putting numbers to it, because each kind of replacement's
Because I mean, it looks to me like you guys should have all the paperwork on it. You engineered it, right?
There's already been some estimates, and I don't know if Ken's really had time or even been privy to it, but some of that's been looked at before. I think
Or is that what I'm looking at now is what those are?
No, I don't think so. That's not what
Say that again, sorry.
I don't think you included what I'm thinking of as far as what we have, but
No.
yeah, I mean, Ken has never seen what we're looking at right here as far as the phases, but
I need to go out there and take a look at the last, after being here last month, and getting an idea. There are some of those sections that are salvageable in your line. You might have to do some work around manholes. Oh, bright green, sorry. There are some, some areas in the good pavement where we would need to do some work to, grade around manholes and patch in. But then in the areas where they only put down one lift, obviously that is blown apart and shot. One of the things that we looked at in some other communities that I've worked in is to mill up when you have a section of gravel and asphalt that's alligatored as bad as that is, to come in with a mill, drop in and not only mill the gravel or mill the pavement, but mill the gravel up as well, create a blended base with it, and then come back over that with 4 inches of mix so that you don't haul anything out necessarily, but you're putting back a section that appears to be holding up in the rest of it. I don't think it had more than 4 inches on any of it. But where it does have 4, that's a reasonable way to do it, to keep it as cost effective as possible. And most of that pavement out there is left down 1.5 inches, 2 inches at the curb line, which usually causes you a lot of problems, of course, because as your water sheets, it doesn't get into the curb and run to the inlets. So you end up with additional problems there. But if you blend that stuff up and then just reshape the crown so that you can get your 4 inches of mix in there, it would be a way to do it. As far as coming up with a preliminary estimate, yeah, about the best we could do is take linear foot of street and, work up a square footage or a square yardage of milling and put together some rough numbers on it to get an idea of what it would take. But let's be realistic about it. Not everybody's going to have a brand new street there. Those sections that are holding together well, we can go and do some patch repairs or spot repairs if we need to. But the rest of it would be kind of this concept.
And I really don't know how we can even look at a plan going forward until we have an idea of what this is going to cost, because my personal opinion is we cannot just slam them guys with all them specials again for a street that they've already paid for that they never got. That is just not right. But at the same time, we need to have a plan put together to be able to repair that and bring that up to what those people should have got. And I think a linear foot with, that best guess number, just so that we have that target to knowing that it's not cast in stone.
It's going to be a rough number,
right?
But it's not going to be so rough that we're off by
$2 million or something.
No,
So
we're going to have a reasonable count on what we've got for square yardage of milling and tons of mix based on that same linear footage. Curb and gutter's there. If we presume that most of it can remain, we're going to have some areas that are obviously needing replacement, but we might just do that as 10% of the length or something.
What are you guys' thoughts, I guess?
I can't really go anywhere if we don't even have an idea of the cost at all, so.
And we need to figure out how to pay for it.
I agree. I think that it's been out there long enough that a portion should go to some of the homeowners, but not the entire portion, the specials.
With the milling machine, my initial thought was, break it up and if we can fix a block, 1 year or 2 block, I don't even know how the blocks we're talking totally, but break it up. But I like Kim's idea of the milling machine, and if we go that route, we probably don't want to break it up. It takes a lot of money to get a milling machine in.
Right.
Yeah. And the bigger the project is, the better price you'll get. And
Yep.
you probably want to shoot for a pretty big project if you're going to do that.
Yeah, you would want to do that in one shot, probably. And you don't want to make the mistake of putting down one lift to stretch out the costs into the following year, because then it'll blow apart again. So you're going to end up having to pave, both lifts when you go in to do it to protect you. But in the end, you've got something good. And of course, the thing that you have going for you, many communities will go back with chip seals every 7 to 10 years on pavement. So if you guys have had this for 8 years, you're already at that point where it should have had a maintenance to it. Now that would be a portion that, had the roads been built correctly, that assessment should have been going on the lots coming up. So there's already some dollars that a person should reasonably expect to have their streets in good shape. Is it going to cover 4 inches of mix? Absolutely not. But it's it's at least a little bit.
It's a help.
It's a help.
I think
Exactly.
once we get a big number, we can kind of look at what that percentage would even be, so.
Yep.
But without it, we're all just, nowhere.
Yeah, I'm just guessing.
Well, it's really hard to make a decision when you know it's gonna be expensive, I mean, just the size of it, it's gonna be costly. And just to say, yep, go ahead and do it.
Are there any things that we can do, like, for instance, with the capital improvement project, are there any grants or funding that we can apply for that would, just throwing it out there, is there anything that we can do that would help with that cost as well?
I'm not aware of anything right offhand, simply because of the unique situation you're in with partially constructed but funded and reconstruction. That it gets really messy. There are a couple things we could look at as potentials. This community doesn't qualify on the CDBG type processes, so it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to find something that would work.
Okay, so is that, probably need a motion of some sort to ask them to get that rough number. It's gonna sound terrible, but I don't want a $25,000 bill on getting me a rough number.
No. We don't have time. We don't have time to put $25,000 worth of effort into getting your rough number. We can put something simple together and get you something to work on, as a budgetary number. We'll throw some contingency on the end of it to make a little room in it and call it good. But we're not gonna over-engineer it at this point in time. We're just gonna get you the rough stuff.
So I'd make a motion to have Bros give us a rough estimate based on need and yardage.
Okay, there's a motion.
I'll second.
There's a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Lynn, please call the roll.
Lauren,
Aye.
Zach,
Abstain.
Ty,
Aye.
Linda, Linda. She just texted me. George.
Aye.
The majority of ayes, the motion carried.
Thank you.
Next line item is the city pond. I believe that it refers just to the picture that we have. The sign is up, no swimming. And that comes right from the North Dakota Game and Fish Department. It's already there, so I believe we are covered.
Okay, President, may I speak on that as well, though?
Sure.
So Tuffy did order some more signs, like to place other than just on the dock. And I did have this discussion with Ryan and Deb, and because there was a motion actually to have a policy adopted. And I guess I'll just let Ryan speak on that now.
Yeah, the policy would only apply to employees. You can't make it, you have to do an ordinance. So I think I talked individually to some of the I think maybe the mayor just said if we did, you can't do a policy because it only applied to employees, not the regular individuals that would go out there. So you need to pass an ordinance. And I don't think you guys want to pass an ordinance and make it a crime or even an infraction to go swimming out there. So
I guess I see it the same as our no parking sign. We don't have an ordinance for that. It's just best behavior. With the sign, it does give the chief and his people the ability to say, put your clothes on and go home. And I think that's good. We have enough ordinances. We don't need to keep writing ordinances. Do we need any other discussion on it, or do we need any,
Well,
put the signs up, I guess, that you got ordered, and
do we need to rescind the previous motion then?
I would. Yep.
Who made it? I don't remember.
Linda, I think.
Yeah, it was motion made by Wine Bar, second by Little Creek. Linda, are you with us?
For the sake of time, put it on agenda for next month.
Okay.
Next line item is the gaming permits. You will see two, I believe. No, two, yep. One for.
Want me to read them?
Yeah, I guess if you can.
Okay, so the first one is for a raffle for the Montreal County Health Foundation, and this would be from August 21st through October 1st through the 3rd. So I believe they're having two different raffles, if I remember correctly.
The second one is probably with the schools did. She's got it this whole.
But yeah, for the exact dates, she's got August 21st and then November 1st would be the actual drawing dates. And the second one would be for the Stanley Park District. This would be for a calendar raffle and a sports pool. Their dates of activity would be like September through the end of March, because their sports pool would run from September through February, and then the calendar raffle is for the month of March.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Is there a second? There's a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the permits signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
Aye.
carried. Motion carried. Next line item is the Housing Committee.
Okay, you have the minutes in front of you. You'll see, I mean, we had some discussion. The main thing we really need to address would be we received quotes for approximately a 290-foot fence at the law enforcement fourplex. Two quotes were received from Security Fence and Dakota Fence, which both included 2 8-foot double swing gates, and this would allow access to the Public Works Department so that they can get equipment in there for mowing. The committee's recommendation was to approve the quote from Security Fence in the amount of $18,333 for a 6-foot white vinyl privacy fence with the 2 8-foot double swing gates, plus the cost for a locking mechanism on both sides of the gate.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion to approve or disapprove the fence.
I'd make a motion to approve.
It's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's motion and second. Is there any further discussion?
I guess I have concerns with spending that much out there because isn't it only meant to be temporary housing? And I feel like we've lost quite a bit of money from people not paying their rents out there to turn around and fence it.
That has all been taken care of thanks to Steve Clinton. There will be no more delinquent rent. We do need the privacy fence or the canine. So I strongly approve of getting a fence up there and getting this place to start looking way better than it has done.
Any other discussion?
The dog won't just be free roaming on the outside though, so I don't see why it would have to be a fully enclosed fence. I understand the need for the garage portion, like for a unit in there, but I don't know, I guess from the police department, they're just.
Right.
they didn't-
So
Yeah, but
So part of the discussion that we had as the housing committee, right now, Officer Pesic is taking both dogs to the dog park in the middle of the night to allow them their free time to run and do their activity. By allowing this to occur at the fourplex, will give him a controlled environment to do that in where it's not out in the public, with the possibility of anything happening. Not that Phantom or Frank are going to do anything, but it would give him the ability to exercise the dogs in a controlled environment. And as far as the concern with the rent stuff, that has all been resolved. That will never be an issue again, guaranteed.
I just feel like that's a lot for events for it. I feel like there's other options like tie outs and situations like that a lot of people do. So to fully enclose it after such a bad history, it's hard for me to justify. I mean, I guess since there will be positive changes, like you're saying, that'd be really something to look forward to in the future. But I think with such a bad history, it's hard for me personally to approve that much. And then like with the last canine dog was gone, we have no reassurance that this one will stay. It just seems like a big investment for temporary housing for officers. And that's how I feel. I thought Sam had his own house too. I thought he owned his own house out here, maybe Officer Pesic
No, he doesn't.
or was renting, but not that housing's not available and he can live there. But I know that the incentive for the extremely cheap housing for the officers is so that they have options to save and purchase and become part of our community, not just rent the housing. So
Understood.
that's where I stand on it.
President, may I make a comment?
Sure.
So I guess I realize that, yes, the 18,000, but I can tell you for the same thing from Dakota Fence, their bid was $28,600. So I guess just so everybody's aware how big of a price difference there was.
It's also a very large lot. It's very large.
Yeah, it's,
So we would be fencing in the backyard, just like you would at your house. It's a large area.
Because it takes in more than one apartment, right? It's like 4 police apartments, so. And I guess I see it as a value adder to the property. I have a fence. I have it so that my dog can run loose in the backyard. So, any other discussion? Yeah.
If I may, I also want to point out, I know that Chief Linton had said that Sam is currently taking the dogs in the wee hours of the morning. It also gives him a chance to not just do that, because they do need to be in a controlled environment and be in a safe environment, because Phantom is a canine officer for the city. So he needs to be protected. And if the only time that Sam is able to safely feel like he can do that is in the middle of the night, I don't know that that's always the best decision. If he can do that throughout the day or evening as his time allows, perhaps that would be something that would be beneficial to everyone.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, Lynn, call the roll.
Lauren,
No.
Zach,
Aye.
Ty,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
George.
Motion carried. Next item on the agenda, Chief Litton, police report. Or is there more on there? Oh, sorry. You're right. There's some more stuff on the housing committee. Lynn.
I guess, like I said, actually, the only thing that actually needed approval was the fence. The other stuff is just, there are things we're still checking into. Then we'll have another housing committee meeting and go from there and bring back recommendations.
Okay, thank you. Oh, it's your turn.
All right, good evening again. So only 2 things, I'll make mine quick. The first part is, last meeting when you guys agreed, voted on Officer Thomas's resignation, I neglected to ask for permission to fill the spot. So I need to do that tonight. I need a motion
Motion to fill the spot.
It's a motion to fill the spot. Is there a second?
Second.
George, second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Lynn, call the roll. Ty or George, flip a coin.
Lauren,
Aye.
Zach,
Aye.
Ty.
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
George.
Motion carried.
With that being said, we had one officer start, a brand new officer start last week. He's going through his admin stuff and working on his paperwork, so he'll be hitting the road on FTO here for the next week or so. He'll be going through a full FTO. And then we have a second one that will be starting the 8th or ish of August, and he's a certified officer, so it'll be good to get him out there as well. The only other thing that I have to say is I got my approval grant, my approval paperwork from the USPCA, Adopted Police Canine. So they accepted our grant. They will be issuing us our check. We will receive it within 5 to 8 weeks. So Phantom was completely free for the city. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Tuffy. Go ahead.
Okay, good evening. I recently took over Brady Honest's spot as interim director for Public Works. And we are working out some things. I've talked to Chad about some things and we're all on the same page. And I think with that being said, I should be able to receive Brady's wage that he was getting. which
I'll
we did
I'll
talk
cover
about.
that for you.
Oh, okay.
We won't make you sweat through that one. That one's on us.
Okay, but I have nothing to.
Problems,
bring up.
concerns?
Nope, I'm getting some quotes that will be ready for the next meeting,
Okay.
but I have nothing.
All right, sounds good. Thank you for what you've been doing. So with that, to get her off the hot seat, not fair to make her stand up there and do this. Public Works Committee did meet, and with Brady's absence for the interim, Tuffy has agreed to become or to fill that position. And along with that comes all the extra responsibilities. So the Public Works Committee did agree and would like to make the recommendation that the increase that Brady received as his interim spot to Public Works Director, that be parlayed over to Tuffy. We will need a motion and a second to approve that. And then with that said, at the same time, while Brady is gone, that his wage would go back to where he was, because he's not fulfilling those duties of the interim director. Everything is good. We're fine. We're working through the shortage of people. So that's the first thing that we need to have approved by the council, and there is a motion to approve that change in pay. Is there a second?
Second.
George has a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Lynn, call the roll, please. Oh, what's that, Linda?
I would like to ask if Public Works is looking to hire just another public worker.
Yeah, we talked about
No.
that at our meeting with Tuffy.
Well, I'd like to, I guess I'd like to see an ad in the paper for another public works worker to help these guys out. I mean, that's dropping them down to 3, and this actually, you know, it's a good sized city, and these guys are doing a tremendous job. So I'd like to see an ad in the paper for a public works worker.
Hey, Linda, is your phone on speakerphone?
Yep. Is my phone what?
Is your phone on speakerphone?
Yeah.
Can you pick it up and talk?
Yep.
Thank you.
Repeat everything that you just said.
And repeat what
I
you,
guess, well, to repeat, I would like to see an ad in the paper for another public works worker. You know, we got a pretty good sized city here, and these three people have been doing a tremendous job, but I'd like to see them get some extra help.
So what you're proposing is hiring a sixth employee.
Yes.
If I may, I think we kind of touched base on this at our Public Works meeting, and we had discussed that if it is an overload right now, at the time, that it might even be cheaper to hire out some of the stuff. So contract out snow removal or things like that, that would take the burden off of some of them. But while we still have the position open for a director and just somebody on leave, there would be no need to fill the additional position. But we did talk about offering an incentive to the three that we have, which would be a perk for the additional work that they would be doing on times that they would be overtime hours.
I disagree. I think we need one more person in there. I really do.
Well, I mean, and to be fair, it's awfully hard to judge workload when we're at a partial staff. To add a six, and what happens when we don't fully utilize them was the concern that was brought up at the Public Works meeting. Is it a temporary position? Is it a seasonal position? Is it truly needed? I know Tuffy and I, or us, the Public Works Committee visited about it. And at that time, she agreed that as long as we can cover the busy stuff, like whether it be snow removal or whether it be an exceptional amount of mowing or whatever, that we could look towards a contract type basis. I don't want to have a knee-jerk reaction and just look for that sixth person because we're shorthanded right now.
Okay.
But you're definitely entitled to your opinion on that, Linda. So, rest of the council,
I
what's
see
your?
three people out there: Brian, Jean, and Tuffy.
I don't think anybody's arguing that fact that we have 3 active employees right now, but we also have 1 position open and 1 that's out on leave. So when you're at what the full staff was, it causes me concern to hire a 6th one, not knowing if the 5, when we're full back to what we know as full staff, is not enough to handle the job.
President, may I make a comment?
Yep.
I guess just a question, was there discussion of maybe asking if Walter would come back just for the summer, just the remainder of the summer, and help with the street sweeping? So then that, otherwise that takes Gene away from some of the other maintenance work as well.
That did not come up, but I mean, right now with where we're at, the proposal was with the 4 people for sure. Personally, I would not be opposed to asking if he would come and do some street cleaning. Just simply that temporary type mentality. And once again, it's just me. It's just strictly my opinion. I don't know that I see 6 full-time positions yet, especially when we've been operating shorthanded because of multiple events that have taken place. And yes, the burden has been put on Tuffy, Gene, and Brian. But it's kind of it's a tough spot. I recognize the work that they do. They're not letting things slide that they probably could. And they are getting that work done. Their overtime hours are attested to in the in the bills, that they're not racking up large amounts of overtime. So they're not having to work extra hours to get the day-to-day work done. So using those metrics, really, where are we?
Well, where we are is without a director for well over a year.
So we're getting
So
to that.
I would
Linda.
make a motion. I would make a motion to hire an extra public works employee.
Okay,
We do already have a motion on the table for the interim, raising her pay. We haven't done roll call on that, or it hasn't.
There's a motion and a second.
So we got Lauren motion and George second.
Okay, so we'll settle that business. There's a motion and a second. Call the roll, please, Lynn.
Lauren.
Aye.
Zach.
Aye.
Ty.
Aye.
Linda.
I
George.
Motion carried. Now, Linda's got a motion on the floor to hire a 6th public work employee. Is there a second? Is there a second? Is there a second? Motion dies for lack of a second. So back to the Public Works. The Public Works Director, as Linda had alluded to, we've ultimately been advertising it for about 1 year now. And the few applicants that we did receive were definitely not what we were hoping to see. Public Works and Tuffy, we talked about it, and we think that we're probably too low in that wage. And the consensus among the Public Works Committee was to recommend a $10,000 increase to that salary, and then advertise it again with that increase. Now, that was the recommendation from the Public Works, so obviously we need a motion to accept that recommendation and change that advertising for that position. So motion to approve the $10,000 salary increase. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Is there any further discussion?
Where's that, what we were at before, what does that bring that to?
You're at 75 and that would bring us to 85.
I guess in some of them, I did put that obviously it was to be determined. But in some of them, obviously I had to give a price range, and I did put between 75 and 80 on some of them. Some of them have actually expired. I haven't renewed them, but I can go in and renew some of them and then obviously update this. I mean, we've still been running the ad in the paper, our local paper, and I'll have to check with the League of Cities. I don't know if they already took it down from there.
Okay. And clearly we have to do something in 1 year of looking and not getting anything acceptable. Makes you want to believe that there's something missing, and generally at the end of the day, it's the dollar. So we felt that that's the best place to start and try it again. The next thing that we talked about at the Public Works, with the absence of Brady, right now, the three, Tuffy, Gene, and Brian, have had to pick up the extra weekends of what would be.
Sorry to interrupt you. We got to vote on the change, don't we?
Yeah, sorry, we didn't vote on it. There was a.
Oh, I'm anxious to get through this list. So there's a motion and there was a second to approve the $10,000 additional wage for Public Works Director and start the advertising over again. Is there any other discussion? Sorry. Hearing none, call the roll, please, Lynn.
Lauren.
Aye.
Zach.
Aye.
Ty.
Aye.
Linda.
Aye.
George.
Aye.
Motion carried. All right, so the next thing that we talked about is Tuffy, Gene, and Brian have had to pick up that extra weekend of call that they divide out amongst themselves. They've managed their schedules around it. We've encouraged them that personal time, vacation time is not to be affected by it. If they're going to be down to one city person that's on call for that weekend and they have something that they want to go to, we encourage them to go to it. And if something were to come up during that time where they needed help, we would reach out and bring a contractor in to help with that job at hand, if you will. But with that said, that extra call is asking them to be on call every third weekend at a minimum. And we felt that there's got to be a compensation on the interim for those people that take that extra call. And I believe what we settled on was, my note is in my pickup. It was $200, I believe, for that extra weekend of calls. So when Tuffy takes what should have been Brady's call for the weekend, that's an additional $200 to cover that call. That was the recommendation from the Public Works Committee.
Not just Tuffy though, everybody.
Yep,
everybody
for
takes a rotation.
whoever's
Nope,
covering,
just me.
whoever's covering that, so that, you know, I realize that it's not a large amount, but it's something, right? And that's where we got to start. And
Yep,
this
I'll
all,
look at you, Elaine, about that.
and this all goes back to the first day off on Brady's leave. So it's retroactive.
So do you need a motion for that then?
We do.
I'm gonna make a motion to increase or to add a $200 compensation for the extra weekend of call.
And that was that tied to the time schedule too until things get back to normal.
Yeah.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Lynn, please call the roll.
Lauren,
Aye.
Zach,
Aye.
Ty,
Aye.
Linda,
All right.
George.
All right.
Motion carried. Am I forgetting anything?
No, I think that's it.
I think that's it. All right. Thanks, Tuffy.
Thanks, Tuff.
Attorney updates.
Nothing.
Nothing. Ryan wants to go home. Council concerns. Lauren. None. Zach. Ty. Linda.
Yeah. I guess I'm gonna go back to the public works. You know, willing
Linda.
to pay X amount of dollars.
Linda, can you take your phone off speaker and talk into
I
it?
did.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go back to the public works. Willing to pay X amount of dollars for contractors. You know, that's a lot of money versus getting a working body in public works. I don't want these three to get burnout. That we lose them. These are great people. I don't want them to get burnt out on work. Money isn't everything. It's great, but having that extra hand, I think is unbelievable. It's going to help you psychologically, physically, everything. So that's my comment.
Okay, thanks.
President, may I go back to the comment I made earlier about Walter?
Yeah.
I mean, would that be suffice to you, Linda, if we had Walter come back and help for the summer while we're shorthanded? I mean, because obviously he was a city coordinator at one time. He has knowledge. I mean, he could help with other things if something came up.
Oh, I have no opposition if Walter wants to come back, none whatsoever. But in the long run, I mean, do we know the fourth person's going to come back? Do we know that? Does anybody talk to them? So I still think we need to be at least looking. We don't have to offer them a job. At least look and see if we can find somebody.
The problem is then what do you tell them? I'll just hang tight till we find out in 2 months? I mean, to be the devil's advocate,
No.
if I went and applied for a job and then they told me at my interview that, well, we're not really certain if we're going to hire anybody, so we kind of like you, so keep us open on your schedule. It just doesn't work.
Well,
You either got to hire them or
I
you
think we need
don't.
another person in there. Whether the fourth person comes back or not, I still think we need another body.
Well, and I mean, to be fair, Linda, that's where we're at. We don't get to ask that question. It is
No,
what
we
it
don't
is.
get to ask that question. It is what it is. So, and I guess if we ended up having 6 people, I think we can afford it.
I just wanted to touch base.
I don't
on
think the
hiring.
city would be opposed to having another person out there by any means, tax dollar wise.
Okay.
Well, it would be nice to have the additional person to do street cleaning. I think that it's really difficult to justify the pay that we were paying him and then the pay that we're paying our public works guys to do the same exact thing. So if we were to do that, I think we'd really have to reevaluate what pay he would come back at, because I just don't think it's fair for our current employees to be able to do the same thing and make a fraction of that cost. That would be my first concern.
I guess that was something that was, I mean, I think he's been at $29 an hour for probably 6, 7, maybe 8, 9 years. And the only reason is that is obviously he was working full-time, but because he was a temporary or seasonal, he wasn't getting any benefits. And obviously, just because he has experience, he also does the maintenance on the street sweeper, which also in turn saves the city money when he can do a lot of the maintenance on the street sweeper.
And I mean, for the remainder of this year, if he's willing to come back at that rate and help us out, Tuffy, you're sitting right there. They've been okay with, or, I mean, I want your 2 cents.
I feel like if we had Walt come back, it would definitely help us, because I have noticed that we have been getting a little bit more complaints about how dirty the streets have been, which we did talk about that. And we have been sweeping, but it's not as often as we would like to. So I think that we should consider having Walt come back if he would like to.
And you guys are good bringing him back at the rate that he was at. That's not going to cause hard feelings.
No.
Just get you the help and take care of that.
Yep.
And then hopefully sometime end of July, early August, we find out where we're sitting, and then we can revisit it all. If you're good with it, I'm good with it, but we would need a motion to reach out to him and see if that would be of an interest.
So moved.
It's a motion to approach Walt Arneson and ask if he would be so willing to come and help with the street sweeping and any little maintenance or incidentals that they have. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Lynn, please call the roll.
Lauren?
Aye.
Zach?
Aye.
Ty?
Aye.
Linda? George?
Motion carried. Finish out our agenda. George, any council concerns?
I just have a couple of things. At the last meeting, I probably should have brought this up and I spaced it at the end. So where I live at in town, and Chad, you probably have the same issue somewhat over where you're at too. I know Zach probably has the same. There is a ton of stray dogs, obviously, that roam, especially towards the park, any kind of open areas, that kind of thing. Typically, we have a dog problem in town, as we know. That's no secret. What to do with them when you find one is another story. Normally, you throw it on Facebook, somebody comes and claims it. You know, they end up in my yard a lot because I have dogs, and my yard's wide open. So I end up having to tie a dog up here and there, wait for an owner to show up, that kind of thing, which is fine typically, but then you run into a situation where an owner goes, well, just let him run. Well, as a councilman, when we have that problem, and as a member of the city that doesn't like seeing that problem, how do I just release a dog and let it run? And there's the dog safety, all those kinds of things too. But so the last time that happened, I had called chief after exhausting all the other options of what to do. And they ended up having to take a dog to the temporary pound in Tioga in order to have a safe place for it to be. There was nowhere left for it to go. After that happened, Chief and I talked a little bit, and he kind of came up with some plans that might be able to help some of our situation. So I'll let you take over from there quick.
All right, perfect. So with that being said, we also have some city ordinances that talk about animal issues, and after third offense or whatever, talks about the removal of the animal. Well, as he said, we have no way of doing any of this stuff at this point. And I don't have the ability to put a dog in my patrol car and hang out with it for several hours while I'm waiting to figure out what to do with it now. So when Brady was interim public works director, I had spoke with him. We do have room at the shop building up on the second floor that we could utilize. I just briefly spoke with Tuffy about this. We'll discuss it some more in depth. But what my option would be is to buy 2 kennels or 2 runs. Each run is $399, and then the pads to go underneath it that would prevent any liquid or anything from going into the plywood that's there. And then there would be policies in place by the police department to take care of the animals while they're in our temporary custody. So
What's the ordinance charge?
I'd have to go look at it. I don't recall it because I know that there's several different ordinances in place.
I believe, sorry if I may, I believe the first offense is 25, and I believe the second one is 50, if I recall correctly.
And then also what this will help us or assist us with, as we do respond to numerous animal complaint calls, we also have a city ordinance that requires our residents to register their dogs and cats with us. This would help ensure that their dogs are being registered with us. So in the event that they do get lost, I have a phone number. Their rabies vaccination information is current with us. So in the event that we have a dog bite or something like that, I'm not playing heck trying to ascertain if the animal has the correct vaccinations or whatnot.
Okay.
How do you, what's the second step? How do you make sure it's temporary?
So what we do is what other agencies do as well, is they just post the stuff on Facebook. With this incident, I believe that they were in temporary custody for a day and a half is what it was. And then we reunite them with their families.
In a more worst case scenario, if don't find the owner, don't find a new home, then you take them to like Tioga or something like that.
Then we'll take them to a shelter or another way to get them adopted out.
I don't think I don't want to accidentally have a city dog pound,
No, that's not my intention, period, because
I guess that's where I was going.
Yeah, no, to be honest, by doing this, it really is utilizing our resources, because our officers are going to have to go over there. They're going to have to make sure the dog is taken care of. We have to take them on walks. We're going to have to feed them. We're going to have to do things. So I don't want to keep a dog. Trust me, that is not what I want to do. But I don't have an ability right now to do anything with them, and allow them to run the street is not a viable option either.
I guess I worked at an a county animal shelter for years, and I think that this is being looked at as like not how it actually applies to the real world. You have somebody who doesn't want to pay the $25 because it goes, so you instantly have an owner surrender. You're responsible for getting it out. I mean, are you going to be okay with euthanizing when the person says no and no other shelter will take care of, or all of the taxpayers supposed to be paying for the dogs to remain in our care for the overtime for officers? And then, I mean, at what point is it, and I see the need for it. That's why I love that we had a great community volunteer for a small amount of time. I see the need so much because I've taken so many dogs and hitched them up to my cable. And I hate to do it now because half the time you can't get a hold of the owners and you get stuck with a random dog for days. And it's absolutely awful. And granted, I have a garden shed I can toss them into. Not everybody can do that, but no, I don't want to do that. But
Right.
if we as just citizens are having to deal with that, why would you think your circumstances would be different? And the people who aren't caring for their dogs are the ones who are not going to have the rabies vaccination. So are you going to turn dogs back over when they don't have rabies vaccinations? Are you going
Right.
to turn dogs back over when they don't have city licenses or they don't want to pay for it? Because
Right.
at that point, no, I don't want my dog. You deal with it.
Right. And those are all valid concerns. I was just trying to assist with a solution that was brought up. That's all. I mean,
Right. I mean, because every other facility has those fees worked into it where, you know, you do have to pay owner surrender fee. You do have to pay for the vaccinations to go back. And
Right.
at what point is it, hey, the city gave my dog Bordetella because you kept it in here and it wasn't treated for it? Or, hey, my dog has kennel cough because of this. I'm going to sue the city because you guys don't vaccinate for kennel cough every single time they come in here.
right.
I mean, or another dog bites another dog in your care, then we're responsible for that. I mean, there's so many, like, I love the simplicity of it would be so nice for you guys to manage that, but it's really getting with a rescue who could be the ones to call that maybe you guys could even take and drop off to where we're not responsible for that additional care.
So
Because
Lauren,
Our ordinance is pretty straightforward. You pick the dog up, and if the owner doesn't come and get it within 24 hours, we can euthanize it.
right. But I don't think these cops want to go out there and just euthanize every dog that they pick. I mean, I know the ones that are absolutely the problem in town too. I think we've all probably called the owners multiple times.
If it's a known owner, they get 72 hours. You have to hold them.
Oh, so if it's a known owner, then 72 hours before you can even, so we all.
But the unknown one, like you said, that just says I don't want it.
And is that where we need to be? Just take them and euthanize them? Because I mean, that's what our ordinance says. So you guys could just take them 24 hours, euthanize them?
You
I'll
actually
take-
don't have it. It says you shall, so you have to do it. now.
Yeah. I mean, is that, we're going to pay vet fees for it to have it euthanized, or we're going to do it the good old fashioned way? I mean, at what point is it, no, I'm just being realistic. I mean, these are all things, like, I love the idea of it. I just think that there's so much more that goes into it than buying 2 kennels.
Right.
and
No,
wanting the officers to do
I
it.
understand. And I can tell you at the other agencies that I've worked for that have had this, fortunately, we haven't had to run into that situation.
Right.
So, thankfully, but
No, I work
that could change.
doing that exact thing.
Right,
That's only
right,
why I say that,
right.
because I've
Absolutely.
seen every single one of
I
those
do think though,
circumstances.
by having an ordinance, we are obligated as a city to address the issue. And if $700 worth of kennels on the front end can help address that issue, that's our obligation by our forefathers writing an ordinance. We're required to uphold that
Our ordinance
ordinance.
also states that we have a canine person, that we have a specific person that's to address that, not our officers. It specifically says in our ordinance that there's somebody that we have hired that does that, and that's paid a certain rate to do it, and then we'll dispose of it too.
Okay, there's my 7th person then. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, the last
Nobody
time
wants to
Stan-
do it for the pay that's offered in that. I think it's like
Right.
$5 or $25 a dog that
Well,
it's.
the last time Stanley had a dog catcher, his name was Alfred Bounting.
I'm just saying it's stated in the ordinance.
Yeah,
That
it's
I've
right
looked
here.
at the ordinance because I've hated these people that let their dogs free roam because my fence is not fully in too. And we have kids that walk and we have dogs that you don't know. I think that they're a nuisance. I think that they do need to be handled and addressed. I just think that there's more than just a couple of kennels to solve it.
I agree. I'm just trying to come up with
Short-term
a short-term solution to a huge problem.
Heck, we can give it a shot and then see how it goes, but I just think that there's.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's a
in the
that's a
situation.
viable response
But
to
I
it. Let's
do-
just give it a shot and see how it goes. If we only have 1 or 2 in there once every 2 weeks, 3 weeks,
And
and
I
the owner
think
comes and gets it, easy.
I think we should probably take track of how many hours we're investing in it.
Right.
Especially so that we're not paying thousands of dollars in overtime for dog keeping.
And Lauren, you and I are probably on the same page here, but like before I ever called the police department, I had talked to 2 shelters and 3 rescues,
Yep.
and none of them would even take them.
I know I've talked to several of them too. I would even love to sit down on this issue and with a couple of people that I know have a really big interest in it and discuss it. I've talked with my husband. I can't believe that our county does not have it for the amount of dogs that are let loose. I mean, I know Newtown will every once in a while take them, but it is an issue and I've always had a passion for it. But I think that sometimes you have to make the hard decision of putting a dog down, and that sucks when it falls on you to do it, when you get
Right.
stuck with them.
Okay, anything else, George?
No,
You
I'm
said
good
you
with
had a
that.
couple.
Well, I was just gonna comment with the impressive use of our first responders this last week. We had some incident in town and watching the fire department, the ambulance, the police department, and all the other agencies that showed up to help was pretty impressive. And it makes you feel pretty good in a small town like this to see that happen as far as the response goes.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Judges report. Everybody had a chance to take a peek.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve the judges report. Is there a second? Second. Any Yep. Any other discussion? Hear none. Those in favor signify by aye.
Right?
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. Bills are in front of you. Any questions or concerns? Oh, there is one listed thing in here that wasn't on the agenda. Yeah.
Is that the airport one?
Yep.
I just gave you guys a copy so that you were aware.
Okay, thank you.
Obviously, you know, we always receive notification when the airport does something.
Okay,
Motion to pay the bills.
it's a motion to pay the bills. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Is there any discussion? I see there's one red area in here that says what fund?
I assumed we would take it out of the water.
Correct.
Okay. And sorry, who's second? George, thank you.
George. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All those
May
in
I
favor?
ask-
Yep.
may I ask something?
Go ahead,
Did you need a
Linda.
Motion to approve kennels or not?
It was council concerns was all. There was no business on it.
Right, and it falls under the amount that I'm authorized to approve, so I can just do that.
Yep.
I just wanted to make sure you guys were good with it.
Should be good, Linda.
All right.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We're adjourned.